You might be thinking from the title, this guy is lying. Manchester City easily beat Bayern Munich and they are pretty much through to the Champions League semifinals. And if you said that, I would half agree with you. Manchester City played an incredible game against Bayern Munich, but it was nowhere close to comfortable. Look, even Pep Guardiola agrees with me.
It was not comfortable at all. Emotionally, I'm destroyed.
He probably felt that this was one of his lowest possession games for City since he took over too. This time, Guardiola used some slight tactical tweaks instead of throwing in his typical big game 500 IQ chess moves like putting Haaland at center back. But it was these slight tactical tweaks that saw City play an incredibly disciplined game against the Thomas Tuchel Bayern side that had a fair share of chances. Also, look at this pre-match lineup from the broadcast. This has to be the craziest formation I think they've ever put on a broadcast before. They actually decided to go with a 3-2-5 as the formation for Man City, because I feel like they typically use like a 4-3-3 because it makes sense to most people, but fair play to them. The biggest thing I noticed from a tactical perspective from the beginning of the match was the movement of John Stones. When we saw City play Liverpool, Stones also played as one of the two holding midfielders, so that's nothing new. But once Bayern had possession, he would transition into a center back to create a back four. When we saw him in this exact role against Liverpool, he instead moved into a fullback position to guard Jota on the outside. Considering Akanji is faster, Pep probably wanted to keep him on the outside to deal with the speed of Sane, therefore making Stones in transition become a center back instead. One thing that you might have noticed from this match is the dominance that Bernardo Silva had on the outside versus Alphonso Davies. Bayern were running a 4-2-3-1 formation that they've been using under Tuchel, and Goretzka would often move over to help Davies with the outside winger. In this game in particular, I think Tuchel's idea was to have Goretzka move over to help Davies with Silva because he didn't want Silva putting in any dangerous crosses to Haaland. He also wanted Goretzka to move over because De Bruyne would often move over to the right wing to help Bernardo Silva and put in some dangerous crosses from that right half space. The problem with this idea is that City absolutely destroy these defensive overloads with the incredible width that their 2-3-5 formation provides. Because they have a winger like Grealish hugging the other touchline, there's so much width for this team to take advantage of. This is partially how the first goal happened. Because Rodri was able to find so much free space in the middle, with Goretzka no longer being in the middle of the field, he was able to receive a pass from Bernardo Silva, make one move, and then put a ball into the upper corner. If you're like me, you were probably thinking at the beginning of this game, I've heard of this Musiala guy. It sounds like he's doing pretty good in the Bundesliga. He was kind of okay in the World Cup, but I feel like he had a disappointing game. And if you read Twitter and you looked at FootMob, your suspicions would be correct. But once again, it seems like Pep Guardiola knows something that we don't. And I almost didn't see this either until I actually rewatched the whole match. Bayern Munich had more possession this game, sure, but most of it was useless possession passing it around the back. It was only when Musiala found some of these pockets of space between the defense that Bayern were able to create some deadly attacks, including the Sane and the Musiala chances that Bayern should have scored on. It's kind of crazy how good he is at this, and it's also crazy how all of us think that he had a pretty poor game, but it's really hard to understand that he actually did really good things for Bayern Munich this game unless you took a closer look at this game. Unless you're Pep Guardiola, because he saw it happening during the match. So the ideas that sealed the City win for me from a tactical perspective came from their change in pressing from the first half to the second half. As we mentioned, City played in a 4-4-2 in defense. Whoa. Pep Guardiola laughs at everyone who said that the 4-4-2 was dead. In the first half, we saw KDB and Haaland up top, pressing the center backs Upamecano and De Ligt to the outside to force errors when they had possession. This worked in the first half, but it wasn't incredibly impactful, and Pep saw another way that their press could cause some issues for Bayern. So it was in the second half where we saw a change in the system, where the two outside midfielders in Grealish and Silva actually came inside to pressure the center backs from the outside. Instead of pressing them from the inside with Haaland and KDB and forcing them outwards, Pep actually wanted Grealish and Silva to pressure the center backs inwards. This is an incredibly risky idea, given that Akanji and Ake are the fullbacks, and they would have to push high up against these speedy Bayern wingers to prevent them from getting easy passes into them. And in typical Pep fashion, this of course pays off, and is kind of one of the key reasons why Grealish is able to force Upamecano to give up the ball for their last goal of the game. Although Upamecano did have a poor game, without this pressing idea, Grealish doesn't come and press Upamecano through the middle, and he doesn't have any passing options, which is the reason why I think Grealish forces this mistake. Overall, this was an incredibly fun match to watch and understand tactically. From the initial viewing, it looked like City had won comfortably, but from a closer look, Bayern actually played a great game bar some individual mistakes. City should be able to convert on their 3-0 win, but this will be a game that City won't look to spoil in the second leg.